Welcome to 59 Minutes. My name is Levi Kones. It's Wednesday, and on Wednesdays we do discuss issues to do with people who are doing extraordinary things in their line of work. This particular Wednesday, we have a lady who is a doctor. She is a mom, a parenting coach. She's also a therapist and leans on the side of children. We'll be talking about that. Her name is Dr. Carol Chakua. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Levi. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Yes.
And now you're an author too.
Yes, I'm an author. I have just written a book that's coming out in a few days, and it's called Parenting with Your Heart in Mind.
Parenting with your heart in mind.
Yes.
So, in a nutshell, what do you do?
What do I do?
To the layman, what would you say?
To the layman, I work with parents. So what I do is I help parents have better relationships with their children, period. So that's what I do as a parenting coach. But initially, I used to work as a therapist, which I still do, but not fully, because I've transitioned fully into working with parents. And the reason I did that is because I used to work with kids. Children are very easy to work with, Levi. They are malleable, they are open to experiences. So you teach them something, they learn quickly, and they move on. And children will be brought to me because they had issues. Maybe it's behavioral issues at home or at school, they're getting into trouble, or they're not working, maybe performing well in school. So parents would be like, please take this child, talk to them, you know, like locally we just say, ongea na mtoto, you know. Yeah. So talk to them, and you know, I would... We muongeleshe, exactly, we muongeleshe, like take that problem, fix it, and then bring it back to me, you know, fully sorted. And so what I realized over time is the children would be open to the experiences. The behaviors would change because children are just that easy to influence. But they would go back to the same environments that contributed to them coming to therapy. So over time, I realized I wasn't really making a big difference. I realized there were many people who can work with children, but there are very few people who can actually get into a parent's heart and mind and support them. The information we have out there for parents is, parents, you are spoiling your children, you're working too hard, you're neglecting your children. So there's a lot of bashing, there's a lot of negativity. Yeah. So I thought, you know what, how do I get in and just sit in the shoes of the parent and understand their anxieties, understand what holds them back. Because, you know, all of us, you're a parent, I'm a parent, we want to do the best for our children. Yeah. Then why don't we do the best for them? It's not because we are intentionally not doing it. We are naturally wired to nurture. And so what holds the parent back? What are some of these things that cause them not to do what they need to do? And so I've been in that road of discovery as a parent myself, and as working with parents, and that's what has inspired me.
So you work with both the parents and the children?
Actually, not with children anymore. I still get a lot of children. What I do is I actually guide them. I get the parent in to help them understand what's going on with the children. But when it comes to actual therapy with children, I usually refer, and I have very good referral resources. So
mostly it's just the parents?
Mostly it's just the parents.
Okay, what did, you know, most people are pushed into these kind of things by saying, you know, I saw a niche somewhere, or I had a personal experience and I didn't like this, or I liked this. Yeah. What was yours? What was your dive into the pool moment? My
dive into the pool moment, several of them. I started this work before I was a parent, and initially it was, parents, you guys don't know what you're doing. Do you know when you do this, you ruin your children? So I came in as an expert, giving information, talking about childhood trauma and telling them, you know, you need to do this, you need to connect with your child in a certain way. So then I was the expert here, talking down at parents and telling them all these technical things they used to do, until I had my own child. And then that's when I realized there's a difference between theory and practice. And practice means...
Kwa ground
vitu ni different, for real. Yeah. Yeah. It means, you know, your child triggering you have this amazing love for your child, and then they do something and they take you to the other extreme, and you're so angry, and you're like, wait a minute, this anger is a little too extreme. What's going on with me? So I began to look at myself, to look at what are some of those things that were triggering. So that's really forms basis of this book to just help our parents explore themselves first and realize that whatever is going on with you largely influences the behaviors of your children. So your child comes in with a bad report from school. How do you react to that? Is it triggered by how you used to perform back then? You know, you also got into trouble in school. And so your child is getting into a lot of trouble in school. So rather than stepping back and guiding them, what you're bringing in there is your own anxieties, your own past experiences. You're like, this one, we must quickly fix it. And so that, for me, is my own experiences together with realizing that, you know what, there's a difference between practice and theory.
Yeah.
That's what made me dive into.
Has it been easy in the African context? Because, you know, we say here, when we talk about your childhood affects you,
Yes.
it sounds like a Mzungu thing to say.
Yes.
And, you know, and going for therapy, counseling, ni mambo ya
Ni mambo hii ni vitu ya wazungu.
vitu ya
Kuongeongea juu ya feelings.
kuongea kuhusu feelings.
Yeah.
Mtoto kama ni mbaya nyorosha.
Yeah, mnyorosha na ni kiboko. And they say it worked for me, so
yeah.
you know, yeah, and it's not been easy. For real, it's not been easy. But let me tell you what has made it's because people seek help when they realize that their issues are persistent. When they realize hii kiboko yenyewe is not working. You know, nimechapa, it's the same.
Somebody's just hardening.
Yes, somebody's just hardening or hiding now and becoming a liar just to escape the pain, but nothing is really changing. So the change I've seen is from people who have realized my methods, the old methods are not working. And so at that point, a parent is open to anything, whether it looks Mzungu-like or not, they are open. And how I invite them, it's not so much to give them the... I talk to parents at moment-by-moment basis. You tell me. You know, when a parent will come and tell you, mtoto wangu ni kichwa ngumu, or my child is not doing this, I'm like, okay, fine, that's general. Let's talk about a specific event. So what exactly happened? So when they connect with those moment-by-moment events, because I'm like, what exactly happened? They're like, they came, and I tried to tell them this, and then they talked to me rudely, and mimi nikasikia tu kuna kitu you know, hasira imepanda, you know. So we talk about that. We talk about how did you react? How did you feel? How did you experience, how did you interpret your child's behavior? Then they begin to realize, you know what, maybe there's a different way. Then I help them also understand that behavior is just a symptom. So bad behavior is a symptom. Let's look at the real reason, the underlying reasons. Yeah, the root cause. And when they begin to understand the root causes and realize, oh, maybe if I provided a different environment, maybe if I approached this child a different way, then things would change.
Yeah.
But I don't tell them, Ati, don't chapa, don't use all those things. That is ultimately your decision. My interest is in what environment are you using those tips and tools and strategies of changing behavior.
Yeah, they say your childhood affects you.
Yeah.
From your own professional opinion, just how serious is that statement?
Very, very serious. I see 90% of the issues even adults bring into therapy stem from their childhood. Because, you know, as children, we are open, like I said, we are open to experiences. And our expectation is that life is going to turn out a certain way, and that is, because we are pleasure-seeking creatures, you know, we want life to be good. And so that's what we expect. So when our parents or the people who raise us don't meet those needs, and the reason they don't meet those needs is not because they are bad people, it's because they are human, they are not perfect. But when our needs are not met, we sort of go around life seeking that closure. It's like we expect a circle, a full circle, but that circle is incomplete because something happened that was wrong. So we soak in things from our childhood, we suppress them, we don't know how to deal with them because we don't have the skills to deal with those things. And so we suppress them. And then you hear people say children are resilient. Children are not resilient. Children have the ability to suppress quickly and move on because life has to. Too much is coming at them. So they suppress. But those things that you suppress still seek to be, seek closure. So they come out in other things in your childhood.
And yet you'll find that because we are largely religious as a country,
yes,
some of us will say ni madimoni.
Yes, yes,
And,
we spiritualize it.
Yes, so we will cast out demons and we will look for people to pray for them.
Yeah, or we just say it's a stubborn spirit, and I'm thinking, no, there's a lot going on. Yes, there's stubbornness there, but that is the fruit. Let's talk about the root. Where is it coming from? So until we go back and address the root, and I tell parents, you cannot parent if you have unresolved issues. And helping them to work through the unresolved issues for me is what I do and what this book is about. And what this book is about. We're going to come and talk about the book. Yes.
But I want to ask you, it's interesting that your book is coming out at a time like this when COVID-19 is here and children have been home for a long time.
Yes.
And parents have been saying, hey, shule zifunguliwe.
Zifunguliwe warudi. Yeah.
Because things have been happening in the home. Yes. And some people have discovered some things about their kids they didn't know.
Right. Yes.
Maybe the school had said mtoto wako anakuanga hivi and umepinga, but today you have seen.
You're beginning to see,
Yeah. So in a moment like this, in a time of pandemic where we have had to deal with the children, and parents are watching, and this is your line of work. How have you advised parents to go about dealing with their children? Because it seems it's not yet over.
Yeah.
We're not back to school yet for most classes.
And too much has come out. Even when they go back, they have all this information about their children that they didn't have any, before. Yeah. So what I'm advising parents is, first of all, just relax and watch, okay? What will happen is when you start seeing tabias with your children, you want to fix them immediately. But remember, those tabias came from way back. It's taken a while for them to get there. So it's important for you to just relax, observe, and watch and ask, where is it coming from? Number two, most parents right now, even the ones I'm speaking to, are saying, how did I let it get this far? That means I am a bad parent, I have made many mistakes. So I tell them to release the guilt, because you cannot start doing anything if you're already bringing guilt into that space. And guilt is one of those things that trigger us. We're just like, hey, I am feeling this way, so let me do something about it. And then your child still becomes the recipient of all the guilt you're feeling. So now lose the guilt, work through it, and then now just be able, focus on the relationship. And research tells us that if you want great outcomes for your children in terms of, we are talking about resilience these days. We want them to be resilient. We want them to have good relationships in future. We want them to be successful at work. We want them to be mentally healthy. All those things are wonderful things. But if you want those things, focus on the relationship with your child. Focus on creating a good environment so that they can feel loved, they can feel accepted. Focus on creating an environment where you're clear about the boundaries, you're clear about what your rules are, what you can negotiate on and what you cannot negotiate on. All that is part of building a good and strong relationship. So I tell them, focus on that. Don't focus so much on fixing the behavior. Usually I call it the carpenter mentality, where you just want to fix, because you already have, what you want in. You want a blue table.
Every problem is a nail, we bang it.
Exactly, yeah, or it needs to be planed off. When it's a little bit off. Pigaranda, if it's wobbly a little, you slice off, so that, we are so quick to fix. That's carpenter mentality, because we already have what we want. And that you become a very controlling parent. But then I invite you to become more of a farmer parent. And a farmer is nurturing, a farmer is reflective. They ask themselves, what kind of environment do I need to create? Yeah. If I want responsibility, remember responsibility is a harvest. So what do I plant? I take the seed of responsibility, I plant it, and I nurture, I provide the right environment in there, I encourage, I prune, pruning is painful. Sometimes I see weeds, I weed. So accept that this is going to be a process and not a quick fix. When you do that and you relax, I usually say once we relax, we become more creative in what we need to do with our children. Yeah.
What's different between now and Zamani? They said then it took a village to raise a child, and any parent could check you and things like that. Yeah. And times have changed to the point where our grandparents, or those of us who have older parents, are wondering what's wrong with us.
With this younger generation.
Yeah, and even our parenting styles.
Yes. One, is really, like you said, it takes a village to raise a child. We've lost that village. We've lost that connectedness. People are trying to build it back, like, you know, using church groups or chama groups, or, you know, people are trying to build that back. But let me tell you, that was one of the things that really caused a foundation for who our parents have become, because they were raised in a village. People were speaking from the same page. The teacher, the elder, the parent, the uncle, the aunt, all of them, it was the same language. It might have looked punitive, it might have looked like it's too strict, but let me tell you, when people are speaking, when the leaders are speaking from the same page, people just align to it, and they feel safe because they know this is the farthest I can go with the boundaries. So for me, we have lost that. And also, part of being in a village, it makes us feel secure, it makes us socially connected, which is good for our emotional wellness. So what you're seeing now with also a lot of mental illnesses and things like that is because people are very disjointed. They don't have those connections. So that's one major thing. We've lost the village. And now what you have is 100 million teachers at the click of a button for that one child. Then we had 20 teachers all speaking the same language. Yeah. We have 100 million teachers, all of them speaking a different language for our children. So you can imagine the confusion.
And the kids can access them.
Yes, and the kids can access them at the click of a button. Yeah. So we really need to rethink that village thing.
You would think information is more helpful. Like, you know, a child can call, you know, the child helpline in case of a problem. Yeah. It's easier to identify pedophiles, you know, those kind, and people with all manner of bad intentions. And yet, it's still the same society where you cannot tell someone's child to behave properly. Yeah. Because that would land you in trouble. Yes. Yeah.
Or who do you think you are?
Yes.
And you know, it does make sense because we also have lost our value systems. So what if you're telling my child to go a certain way, but I have a different value system. That's why we have to intentionally create those villages, and we have to intentionally decide these are our core values as a village. It's not automatic. We have to do that now. Very, very intentional.
So if you're a parent who wants to be intentional.
Yes.
And you're starting with your child, maybe you haven't had a child, you're about to now. Unaanza wapi?
Unaanza wapi? Unaanza wapi? Unaanza working on yourself first. Okay? Do you have childhood issues that you need to work on? You know, do you feel like there's things that are incomplete in your childhood, that you need some pain, some trauma? And you should be able to know that. You don't necessarily have to go to therapy for everything, but if you begin to start just have a higher level of self-awareness, ujitafute tu, ujielewe better, okay? And you bring people around you to help you understand yourself better. So that's one. I think for me, wholeness and healing is very important before you become a parent. And this is, of course, a process. It's not like now you can get a stamp of complete healing. Now you can go and be a parent, but you open yourself up.
But the awareness.
The awareness, exactly. The awareness is very important. So that now when a child comes into your space, even when you're experiencing stress, you're able to say, this stress is mine. It is not the child. Yeah. It's because now it is the middle of the month and I haven't, you know, I'm broke.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
Is it, because, you know, even sometimes I myself as a parent, I find myself telling myself, you know, that is something my father did after I've done something, you know. Well, that is the way my mom did. And I find that, you know, self-reflection kind of checks you also.
Exactly.
Where you realize this could have been excessive.
Exactly.
And I didn't like it when I was a child.
Yeah. And that's what is triggered. In this book, we talk about triggers. A child does something, and rather than act on what they have done, it triggers some emotions in you, it triggers some memories in you. And so you have all these emotions, you don't know what to do, so you land on the child with a lot of wrath, whether it's with kiboko or 2 hour lecture, you know. And then later, like you're saying, when you reflect, you're like, that was a little bit extreme. This was really not about the child. So that self-awareness is very, very important. That's what I invite parents to get into. Because then what happens is you realize you don't have to punish immediately. you can actually take a step back and understand where this is coming from and still give the child consequences later at the end of the day. But you see how we grew up? We grew up in a place where punishment was about shaming and embarrassing, and you're really, really looking like you're very, very sorry. Okay, and so I mean, I was just talking to a parent the other day, and she tells me, you know, I gave my child consequences, and she just looks at me like it's okay. But you see, the consequences are difficult because I think it was taking the phone away from her for 12 hours. Whether she looks repentant and sad or not, the lesson has landed. Don't wait to see her plead and say, "Mommy, I'm sorry." Punishment doesn't have to be hostile and full of drama for it to be effective. So those
just has to be firm.
It just has to be firm. It has to be clear.
Yeah.
And even if they show that, and sometimes they'll show, especially when they start getting 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, they begin to show you that, you know what, yeah, we're jaribu tu sana, but me, I'm not being affected, you know. But deep down, the lesson is landing. So we don't have to pull our hairs out to find out which harsher punishment we need to give, just so that we can get the satisfaction that our children now look repentant enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're speaking to a lot of parents out there worried about peer pressure.
Yes.
Worried about, you know, the next door's child. And who are my children engaging with?
Yeah.
Wanatembea na nani? You know, those kind of things. And sometimes you feel like you can give values in your own home, and they can completely evaporate the moment your child walks out the door. So how do you handle that? Because a lot of these things you say are picked. You find a strange thing, you know.
Yeah.
I remember when we started experimenting with alcohol, my father would ask, nani umeona akikunywa kwa hii nyumba?
Yeah.
It was not happening in our home.
Yeah.
And he was a Christian parent, and there we were, going to the disco and all that.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Especially as you get teenagers who are, you know, roaming the streets right now, doing all manner of stuff.
Right. I think that, one, just be sure that you keep talking about your values. I think sometimes we approach talking to our children with a lot of fear and anxiety, and that becomes a turn-off for them. These are by our values, this is what we believe in, and you continue teaching them because you're the one in authority there. So those conversations should never end about what is good. And then now beyond that, and just remember this should be ongoing conversations, whether you're talking about drugs, when you're talking about sex, you also need to be armed as a parent and be sure about what you believe. And when you have these conversations, have them from a point of authority, calmness, without, do not...
Sometimes the story too.
Yeah, sometimes the story too. But you see the problem, Levi, is people bring up these issues when they've seen something on TV. So they land on their children like, uliona yo. And then, they keep going. You know, I mean, that's not a good...
Like teenage pregnancy.
Exactly.
That was a big one when they said... Said, have you seen the news? Sit there and watch.
Sit there and watch, and then let's talk. And then when you're talking, you are just pouring out all your fears. There is no advice there, okay? Oh, stay away from men, you know. I mean, it's just twisted sort of, because it's coming from your own fears. So examine yourself. That's why for me, self-awareness is key. Examine yourself first. What do you really believe? What do you want to teach this child? What value do you want to teach them? And when you do it, look for information, because this is all new to us, okay? So look for information. Google, yes, Google has good and bad, but it also has very good information. Seek help from experts, who have this information, and talk to your children consistently. And then, of course, you need to learn more about their friends. Allow your home to be the place they can come to more than them going to the other place. Yeah. So allow your home to be that space where they come. That's when you now really study and you observe them better.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this book, just in a nutshell,
yes.
What are you talking about in the book?
Now, yes, what am I talking about in this book? I'm talking about parenting, not just by doing, because most of the time it's the things we need to do, We need to pay fees for them. We need to take them for trips. Those are still the do's and do's and do's. We need to have dinner as a family. All those are great things that we need to be part of our experiences with our children. But I'm also asking, who are you being How are you showing up? Even as you go for those trips, are you fully present with them? Even as you are having discussions at the table, are you fully present? And being fully present means you have a higher level of self-awareness to know that what it is you're doing is building a relationship and being that farmer parent who is continuously creating a conducive environment for your children to thrive, as opposed to focusing on just fixing. So I help a parent, it's actually a 12-day journey, so that a parent can actually use one chapter every day for about 30 minutes. In fact, I give you very specific instructions. You read a chapter and you begin to ask yourself, how am I showing up in this space? For example, I have one chapter that talks about the poster child syndrome. We have a picture of a perfect child, okay? And every time we are interacting with our children, they always fall short of that perfect child. Meanwhile, that perfect child doesn't exist, because that perfect child is a combination, it's a collage. You know when they used to do mosaic and collage?
Yeah.
Pieces of children that you have seen out there that are amazing and are doing amazing things. So at the back of your mind, every time you see your child talking slowly, you're reminded of that kid who was really shining with a speech that they made.
And communicating well.
And communicating well. And so our children are always falling short. But then I invite you to step back and just look at this child. When you're not trying to fix them, they have amazing qualities. It's just that we are constantly comparing them at the back of our minds with a picture out there. So I ask you, are you interacting with your real child who has amazing qualities that you need to step back and just really pull out and encourage out of them? And water, again being the farmer, watering so that that child can grow. Are you doing that, or are you always comparing your child unconsciously? And I talk about how a lot of these experiences we are not aware, okay? So I ask you to now begin to separate that and accept your child for who they are, with their negatives and their positives. Because once you accept, then you begin asking yourself, what kind of parent do I need to be for this child? With these struggles that they have, how can I support them? With these positive qualities that they have, how can I continue watering what I want to see grow, so that now I'm no longer comparing my child with others? So that's just one. And I invite you to reflect on different areas of your heart and some of the things that could be barriers to you effectively parenting. So it's a 12-day journey. And the good thing about it is that, again, going back to the village, is that you can take this as your group of church friends, Bible study group, couples group.
And discuss it.
And discuss it, because it is a very personal journey, actually. It's not a book that you can just pick for somebody else. When you read it, it's a personal. So when you discuss those things, you begin to have, real, authentic discussions. There's one we talk about, the super parent. We have a picture of the super parent out there, the same way we have a picture of yeah. And so I tell you, I invite you to stop being so hard on yourself and just focus on being real and doing what really works best for you. And then when you're doing that and you are in a village, each one of them doing what is best and works best for them, then, our children benefit, because the adults who are taking care of them are now stable, they're sober,
That's right.
and they're focusing.
I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want us to talk about just that, being real.
Yes.
What exactly
does that mean?
is being real?
Okay.
Yeah?
All right.
We're talking to Dr. Carol Chakua. We'll be right back after this message. Don't go away.